right, welcome back from the break. We'll just have 2 minutes to conclude this segment with Norwa and Biodun. 1 minute each. The cost of these projects.
Yeah, what is clear is that in Nigeria, the cost of project is too high. You can look at it both ways, depending on what you mean by cost. One, due to a high level of corruption in the country, we have cost of projects so high, cost of delivering a kilometer of road is quite very high. But also there's also the cost to the people, whether they're able to benefit from those projects. That's the second part of it. But eventually, what matters is if you execute those projects and people are able to benefit from it, rather than constructing a road, for instance, and after the rainfall, the whole road is gone. That's something that worries many people, despite the high cost of constructing those roads.
I would say that this would be a good place to really fight corruption, because sometimes you hear that a road X kilometers costs, $1 million somewhere else, and it costs $100 million in Nigeria. So that would be a good place to start to fight corruption. That's one. Two, ordinarily, if the project has been well thought through, therefore, when you finish building it, it should bring economic value, which in itself then, government then gets its own return from taxes and all of that, and so you're able to pay back. All right? So the thinking, I guess, of this government is let us borrow, let's create infrastructure. Then the economy will, when the economy begins to thrive, people pay their taxes, and then we can pay back. The only challenge they have along that thinking process is corruption. So if they can curb corruption and get these projects to be executed at what I call reasonable rates, and then you then get the economic benefit from it, then that's the way to go.
Well, it's been a very, very big pleasure, as usual, having you two gentlemen join us on the verdict, as indeed you have for much of this process. We have watched it unfold together, and we have watched it conclude together. I want to thank you both, Mr. Biodun and Norwa Edokpolo. Thank you so much for being our guest on this segment.
Pleasure. Thank you.
I've been made aware now that the reaction of Yaga to these elections is now ready for us to see. So let's take that. And when we come back, we'll introduce a new set of guests. Thank you.
The number of registered voters announced by the state returning officers at the National Collation Center did not align with the figures published before the election. The overall number of registered voters, as announced, dropped by 1,659,959 voters for a total of 82,344,125 registered voters. The election cycle is not over. Yaga Africa Watching the Vote will continue to monitor development in the post-election period and will issue additional statements if and when appropriate. In the interim, Yaga Africa calls on INEC to investigate the potential suppression of votes in Nasarawa State through the disproportionate cancellation of ballot and to hold those responsible publicly accountable. We moreover call upon INEC to provide clear and timely explanation on the discrepancies between the number of registered voters announced prior to and after the elections and the higher rate of cancellation of ballot overall. Yaga Africa also calls upon INEC to engage in a serious post-election review to identify the gaps in the preparation that both necessitated an election delay and resulted in the late opening of polling units across the country on the 23rd of February.
Thanks for staying with us. Welcome back. And we're being joined, as promised, by a new set of guests. Let me start from our Abuja studios, where we're being joined by Mr. Kach Ononoju, who is a member of the People's Democratic Party, alongside Mr. Dapo Akinshun, who is a legal practitioner. Welcome to both of you from our Abuja studios. And here in Lagos, we're also being joined by Mr. Shola Aino, who is a national transformation expert. Thank you so much for joining us at this time.
Thank you.
Before we delve into the discussion with our guests, both in Abuja and in Lagos, we'll be taking a break because we've got to bring you up to speed with what's happening with well, it would appear...
Okay.
Yes, just before we get to the news, Ladi, I think they should just weigh in on a couple of things they've been watching.
Okay.
Some of the things that have happened already, the results, the reactions from both sides, the reception or the receipt of the return certificate.
Perhaps a good place to start is also Yaga Africa. So from
Yes,
their reports,
their own
what
reactions.
the observers had to say, a bit of towing in line with what the People's Democratic Party press conference, at that press conference, what the presidential candidate had to say about some of the irregularities.
Let's just start off from Abuja. Mr. Akinshun, you've watched the announcement. Indeed, I'm sure you are amongst the Nigerians that followed the coverage of the elections, the processes of gathering the results and then announcing it eventually, and then you watched the reception of the return certificate. Tell us, what does it, how does it hit you? Let me put it that way.
It appears to me that this has been one of the freest and fairest elections we've had in Nigeria in a long time. We have seen how the processes went from, like, as you rightly said, from the time the polls were done, the reports of skirmishes and fighting and disruptions were very limited this time around. And you could see how well managed the whole process was. The chairman was firmly in control of the collation and the reading out the results. And I think everything went smoothly. Every attempt to disrupt that process, I think he handled it very calmly and very nicely and said, well, why don't you write a letter? And I think that is one of the best things we have seen in this system in a while.
Okay, I don't know if...
He also shows that the system is stabilizing now.
Okay. I don't know if Mr. Ononoju would agree with you on that bit. Mr. Ononoju?
Yes, thank you very much. I think we are all living witnesses to what has happened. I do not know where my friend gets his pictures and facts from. This is the worst we've had. We've never had this quality of voter suppression. We saw agents of state purposely went on. As I'm speaking to you now, a 30th body has just been gotten out of the Abonima River. All this were done, most of them shot right from the back. State-sponsored killings simply to suppress votes. We saw that in Lagos. We saw it in Akwa Ibom. We saw figures that do not tally in Yobe. We saw figures that we saw in Nasarawa, the cancellation of 86 polling booths. That's unprecedented. We saw also in Zamfara, no voting, but no pictures of voting, but we have figures. We saw the same thing in Borno, and I'm very happy that our presidential candidate has said that he's consulted Nigerians. This has happened on a scale that's unprecedented.
I don't know where my...
We believe that what we are watching right now,
what we're watching
right now, and I'm happy we're going to fix this country, but this is not going to be the way it should be. This is fraudulent.
You see, we
and
need to be
everybody's complaining about this.
In making categorical assertions.
We'll come back to our guests. We'll come back to you. Let's involve Mr. Aina, who is here in our Lagos studios. You're a national transformation expert, and how did the elections really hit you?
From my own point of view, I think we've improved. Well, let's be honest with ourselves. Crisis is bound to happen in Africa. Black Sub-Saharan Africa. I mean, Sub-Saharan
So
Africa.
you're saying by Africa's standards?
For now, yeah, we are work in progress. Because for me, my own evaluation, I looked at it that in this election, there is this sense of ownership. People are saying, I want my vote count. And I've seen a display of patriotism. People are going out, elite, unlike before. People don't, the level of involvement of the elite this time is high up there. Yeah, there are crises there, I mean, pockets of crisis. And that's a lesson learned from my own point of view. Lesson learned in the sense that I think is for INEC now. They should be able to separate the presidential election from the senatorial or National Assembly. I think that's the problem. Most of the problem we hear from Akwa Ibom, from Rivers State, even from Lagos, my own view, anyway, I'm seeing it from those areas of senatorial and National Assembly, not the presidential election. That's the way I see it. That's because I don't see what are you fighting for. So for me, I see improvement. And when we are discussing anything on Nigeria, I don't look at problems. I look at how can we solve it. Because we are just talking about Nigeria now. You need to go to other countries and see crisis. Then you will come back to Nigeria and thank God that you are in Nigeria.
Well, we'd like to crave the indulgence of our guests. We have to take a break now and bring you the news on the hour, and the verdict continues shortly after.